and they got held up by gunpoint. And she was thrown on the floor with everybody else in guns pointed to their head. And she then left that company.
You're now tuned into LWC Radio Off the Record.
Well, welcome to LWC Radio, where we're keeping topics that are fresh, relevant, and real.
Yes.
I'm here with Mac, my co-host. Welcome, Mac. How are you?
Thank you, Newton. I'm well, and you?
Good.
And welcome to everybody online. Yes.
Yeah, it's good to have you with us,
Yes.
and we're excited, eh, Mac?
Yeah, I'm excited, and today we're wearing the same shirt, eh?
I see that.
Wow. Okay, so
Branding LWC
yes.
Church. Yeah,
Wow.
we branded, and we got a good episode coming. So how's your
Yes.
week been, Mac? Have you
My
been-
week has been great. I enjoyed the last episode. If you haven't watched that, please do that. And I'm excited. So by the time you've watched this, it would have been Easter past weekend. So I enjoyed that a lot, but I'm excited about that. Yes. How about you?
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and
Yeah.
so we're moving into Easter weekend, which is such a cool
Yes.
time for us as Christians.
Yeah.
And how you and your family,
Well,
what are
we
your
are.
anticipations for leading up to Easter? I know once every one of you watching at home, Easter is going to be a pass. So
Yes,
we're heading
it would have
into
had-
we're
yeah.
recording this before the time.
Before that time, yeah.
And
Well, spending time with family, going to church, and just enjoy each other's company. I think that's very important. Yeah.
oh, that's good. And how's your stressed life, Mac? Are you stressed?
On a
do you
scale
know
of what?
Stress is?
On a scale of what?
Well, that's what you need to determine.
Yeah.
What is your stress levels like?
Well, I think when I'm working,
year 2021, should we say?
when I'm working, the stress level is somewhere between 7 and 10, and when I'm on holiday, then it's relaxed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for 2021, no, it's been good so far. I
And
think
any anxiety?
a little bit
Or
of
do
anxiety.
you know
Yeah.
what the difference is between stress and anxiety?
Well, I guess we're about to find out, huh?
Well, welcome. We're going to get things kicked off here. We've
Yes.
got an exciting guest, and our guest today is a pastor at Living Word Church.
Yes, another one.
He's a blessing. He adds so much value to our team.
Yeah.
And it's such a privilege to be able to have this person join us.
Yes.
And this person that we're talking about is a qualified consultant and counselor. So not only a pastor,
Yeah.
which in essence pastoring is sort of
Counseling
counseling,
in a way, yeah, it
but
is.
he's a qualified consultant and counselor for the Anger and Stress Center in Southern Joburg. And he's a certified team Maxwell coach and leadership trainer. Pastor Clive, I gave the name away.
Yeah.
Has been married for 47 years and has had 5
That's a good one.
grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. Wow.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing.
let's introduce
A wealth of
Pastor
experience
Clive
coming up.
Rose.
Yes.
Welcome, Pastor
Yeah.
Clive. Good to have you with us. I gave it away a bit sooner than I should have, but I was getting a bit excited there when I
Yes.
started reading all about you.
Thank you, Newton. Thank you, Mac. It's great to be here.
Welcome, Pastor
And I'm
Clive.
looking forward to the session.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
No, it's
be
nice
great.
to have you, Pastor
Thank you.
Clive, and it's a
Thank you.
privilege to have you. And having 5 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren, that must be something really special for you.
Very special. You know, I enjoy them, but it's great to have them, and you can send them back to their parents. That's the best part of it.
Like that. Yeah, it's a privilege of being a grandfather.
Yeah.
And Pastor Clive, why did you've been in ministry now for 21 years. 22 or 21? It's 22 years.
22.
And why did you go and do extra? I mean, you had to study to be a certified anger and stress, and you also had to go on, I know you had to go on some training for the John Maxwell leadership and training. So why did you go and do those things on top of being a pastor?
You know, Newton, you stagnate if you don't grow yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. You know, but again, I had good mentors that assisted me in doing that, because, there's 2 things in life that I've discovered. That it's the way you control yourself. Now, I've decided in life that when people ask me, I'm very privileged because now I enjoy benefits like going to the supermarkets. I get discounts. And they ask me, are you a pensioner? I say, no, I'm not a pensioner. I'm a senior citizen.
Yeah.
And when people ask me how old you are, I don't say I'm 69 years old. I'm 69 years of age.
Wow.
Because you see, you control yourself, because if you think I'm 69 years old, I'm useless. You're not.
Yeah. So it's
But
the
you gotta
perception
change-
you give yourself, hey?
Absolutely,
Wow.
man. So, but everybody's got to learn. You got to continue learning. You're never too old to learn.
Yeah.
So, when I got to the anger and stress management, and that was 9 years ago,
Yeah.
that made me nearly 60, 59, 60 years old. I decided I need to do something more to give me, to be able
grow
to
yourself.
grow myself, but not only grow myself. You do that so that you can assist other people.
Yeah.
Man, awesome.
Okay. The same thing happened 4 years ago. I was 64, and I then went to my superior, and I said, "Look, I believe I need to do something more. Because anger and stress management consulting is great. I learned a lot, but you got to grow more." And it's all right now. What else can I put in my basket?
So you went and studied that at 64.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we got a long way to go.
We've got a long
man.
way to go. Eh?
Yes.
We've got a lot to learn.
Yeah, I was 65 when I got certified as a life coach in the John Maxwell team. But
wow.
it's kept me in good stead because I can then assist other people
Yeah.
in growing.
That's very important there, because a lot of people out there wondering, is it too late for me to study? No, it's actually not. You never stop learning as you go. So at 65 getting certified, that's amazing. So
Did you actually meet John Maxwell?
Yes,
Or-
I did.
Oh, you
I've actually got a photo with him.
You got a photo,
Yeah.
so we'll
Yeah.
clip that photo in.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome, boss.
Great.
Wow.
But there's a book, there's a book called Halftime.
Yeah.
Now, in life, it doesn't mean you say, well, I don't know how long I'm going to live. If I live to 90, is my halftime 45? Not necessarily.
Sure.
But in the sporting code, halftime is when, let's take football, for example.
Yeah.
They play 90 minutes, so 45 minutes is halftime.
Yeah.
But in life, it doesn't work that way. So your halftime in life can be when you're 60 or 65, and you
Yes,
can learn
amen.
something new.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you had halfway, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at 60, I was halfway.
Well, we're excited to have you, Pastor Clive.
Thank you.
We know that you are very skilled in stress and anxiety, and it's something that I thought would be such an interesting topic to have on LWC Radio.
Yes.
And not because I think it's been stress and anxiety has been around for many years. And
Yeah.
it's just been more spoken about, especially now in today's age. We went through coronavirus last year.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, Pastor Clive, what do you feel, or before we get started in that, I want to know this. We talk about stress and we talk about anxiety. What, in my mind, is there, I didn't even know there was a difference. I thought they were the same thing.
Yeah.
What is the difference between anxiety and stress?
Okay. Anxiety is fear of the unknown.
Okay.
So let's take COVID as an example.
Yeah.
So we're anxious because we don't know what's happening tomorrow. The fear of tomorrow. So on the 27th or 26th of March last year,
Yeah.
we had the level 5 lockdown.
South
It was supposed to be for 4 weeks or 5 weeks. I'm not quite sure.
He said 21 days, actually.
Or 21 days.
Yeah.
Right. So that's fine. So we say fine, 21 days. But after 21 days, it gets prolonged. So people become anxious because you don't know. Then there's talk about losing jobs. The economy's going down the tube. So
But
that's
so
anxiety.
is that anxiety of not
because
knowing
not
the-
knowing what
Okay.
is happening. But there's also different types of anxiety, because anxiety can also lead to phobias.
Okay.
Okay. And post-traumatic stress comes from anxiety as well.
Is that a phobia?
It's the phobia, yeah.
Sure.
Okay, and can I give you an example of that?
Yeah.
Okay, so a true example, a life example that I experienced was in the late 90s. My wife was working for a company. She was assistant manager, and they got held up by gunpoint, and she was thrown on the floor with everybody else and guns pointed to their head, and she then left that company. And I was working in the corporate environment at that stage, and I was around business in Cape Town. And she had changed jobs, and she was working in Craighall, and I was in Cape Town. And I got this phone call, and she phoned me. And she says, I can't move. She was on the highway and she pulled off.
Yeah.
And that was post-traumatic stress because she never dealt with the trauma that took place when they were held up.
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually had to phone 2 colleagues where I was working to actually go and fetch her and drive her car back.
Sure.
And that
So
was
that
caused
affected her physically.
physically.
Oh.
And that's what we call panic attacks.
Oh. Okay.
Sure.
And panic attacks is different to different people. Now, if I can just go...
Does anxiety lead to a panic attack?
Very definitely.
Okay.
Very definitely. Now, for example, I have a colleague, Francesca Meredith. She's been dealing... And you see, let me go back one step. Anxiety and panic attacks is no respect of person or age.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was dealing, and this person passed away unfortunately last year of COVID, but she was dealing with a 70-year-old man who was an MD of a company who was suffering from panic attacks and anxiety.
So, Pastor Clive, anxiety, how do I know? That's why I asked Mac in the beginning of this episode. You know, we're talking about anxiety and stress, and I want to know, from my point, how do we know what does anxiety feel like? How do I know if I'm having anxiety?
Compared to stress.
To stress.
Yeah.
Okay. Anxiety.
You know, you're having
anxiety,
the two things, so I want to know the difference between those.
Okay. Stress, you have good stress and you have bad stress. Okay. Different people handle stress differently.
Okay.
Okay. Stress can also be a stress in relationship.
Yeah.
You can be stressed in your financial situation. You can be stressed in your job situation. So that is stress. Anxiety, again, as I say, it's unfear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but anxiety can lead to stress.
Okay.
Okay.
But now you talked about this good stress and bad stress.
Yes.
Is there good anxiety or bad anxiety? Or
No,
is it not?
definitely not.
So
it's only
anxiety
bad
is a-
anxiety, yeah.
So
Okay.
anxiety is not meant
It's
to
not
be...
meant to be have.
Okay,
Not at
so
all.
That's interesting.
Pastor Clive, so I've heard a lot of people say when they get anxiety, so that's where I start to like say, okay, what is the feeling? Because I know I must get anxiety. Either it's anxiety or stress. I know I get it. I just don't always know what is the difference.
The differentiation,
you know?
yeah.
But a lot of people tell me that they actually, anxiety drives them. And anxiety, they use anxiety as a driving force to get them to do things. So I've heard somebody say that. But before we get to that, Pastor Clive, I want to know, has coronavirus and anxiety got some sort of link? Because for the, and I'm sure it's probably one of the key words that have been trending on Google, and people have been typing in anxiety all of 2020 because of coronavirus.
Yeah.
Has coronavirus brought some sort of, more than ever, I'm hearing people talk about, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling stressed. Has coronavirus in some way brought that anxious feeling, or people been talking about it more?
In my opinion, very definitely.
Okay.
You know, I did some research on the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. From January 2020 to the 9th of September 2020, they had 55,000 calls,
Yeah.
people with depression and anxiety.
Sure.
Now, if you look at that, that is a period of what, 9 months, 8 months.
So that's
If you saw
definitely
end of
more
August.
compared to what used to happen
Correct.
before coronavirus
Yeah,
hit.
they didn't give us a comparison,
Okay.
but definitely, Mac, at 55,000 calls, okay, in a period of 8 months, you work out the math.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Wow. That's staggering.
Very staggering, you know. So that tells me that coronavirus, and as I say, in my opinion, coronavirus definitely played a role in people getting having more anxiety because they're unsure of what's going to happen. You know, am I going to have a job? My kids, they've been at home for 3 months from school. Preschools are closed, so I've got to go back to work. So, I'm working from home. I've got a little toddler running around, and I've got to be on Zoom meetings, and that's all anxiety, which also leads to stress because, I've got to make sure that I do what the functions I've got to do for my boss because I can lose my job if I don't. But I've got these kids running around me, and I can't take them to the preschool because the preschools are closed, and that's stress, especially on mothers. But it can spill over to parents, to fathers.
So, Pastor Clive, I know later you're going to be giving us some tips about how to handle a little bit of stress and anxiety.
Sure.
But before we get there, I would like to just find out, with you. So you're saying, you get COVID-19. It's a virus.
Yeah.
Does the actual virus? Because I know now we've got anxiety caused from knowing maybe I could get it.
Yeah.
I've got family life to deal with, and we're cooped up in the house, so that's causing stress and anxiety. But I mean, off the record, do you think coronavirus does cause some sort of anxiety in your body as a virus? Physically. I mean, I know you're not a doctor, but just an opinion on yours. And
Again, in my opinion, anxiety and stress can cause physical illness.
Okay.
Definitely, it's a fact. It's medical recorded.
So,
and I can quote Dr. Caroline Lee from it. She says between 75 and 92% of illnesses caused through stress.
Yeah.
Sure.
So while we're on that, you were speaking about, when people were now thinking about the stress levels they're going through with regard to how COVID has changed things. And you hear a lot about how the economy has been impacted by the whole global economy. Like, your stock markets are crashing, everything. But the one thing that got me interested in, while we're looking at the physical stuff that could possibly go wrong, how do you think COVID has impacted people's mental psyche? Like, do you think psychologically it has more damage, it is doing more damage than what we could actually see physically in terms of what's going on? So basically my question is, do you think it has affected our mental health in a way?
Mac, very definitely,
Stress and
especially.
But I'm just sorry to interrupt
No
you,
problem.
Pastor Clive. Stress and anxiety is a mental health. Is it a mental health problem?
No.
Or is it categorized in the mental health?
Yes, it is, and that's
Category, I
that.
guess.
Yeah, that is why you have psychologists who deal with it. So it is a mental health issue.
No, sorry, I just wanted to make it clear on that.
Yeah.
Sure, but we're going to talk about that later on.
Yes.
And the tips I'm going to give you comes out of tips that Dr. Caroline Leaf, who's a neuroplasticity scientist,
Yes.
and has been practicing since 88.
Sure.
80 in the 80s, and she's also a born again believer.
Wow,
so she matches up the word and science to where we should be going.
Sure.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So again, on that question, Mac, I think, asked it.
Yes, because I wanted to know,
does the coronavirus have an impact
on our physical,
on our mental health?
Because
Absolutely.
I think most people are. I could take myself as an example because when I do feel anxious about certain things and stress, sometimes I start having a low self-esteem even more, or sometimes questioning, is all of this worth it? Because it looks like it's just going to go all pear-shaped. Like when you read the news, obviously, which you shouldn't, because you know that the news always just gives you bad news. But as a person, I'm sitting there going, okay, is it worth it to even try anything? Because everybody's it's talking as if coronavirus is kind of like the end and be all, but I'm more worried about my mental health at the end of this. Once, let's say, the coronavirus thing is over, how will I cope? Would I still be normal at the end of it all? Because I've gotten into that mode now where I'm stressing about everything now. And then now I have to, suddenly they say, no, it's over. So how would I deal with that post-coronavirus?
You see, Mac, we're going to touch on that, and I'm going to give you tools on how to do that.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Caroline Leaf says as well that our mind is the second most powerful thing in the universe.
Wow.
The only other thing that's more powerful is God. And our mind,
That's the second one.
God created that.
Yes.
The mine's got a lot of
Power. Okay. Because when you think of your mind, you have a subconscious mind and you have a conscious mind.
Yeah.
So where are your thoughts stored? Not in your conscious mind.
Yeah.
It's stored in your subconscious.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful.
How do you identify anxiety, Pastor Clive? So or stress? Because now you're saying stress. So when you anxiety. So I know sometimes for me, when I feel anxiety, I feel like maybe shortness of breath. I start, I've read that you should be breathing more to get oxygen in your brain. But for me, I find myself shortness of breath, maybe not as focused as what are the other ways that you can
identify?
How do you identify?
Okay.
So for someone listening out there, just simple, just straightforward. How do they identify they're feeling anxiety?
Okay. Is when you feel, I don't want to go out. I'm anxious of going out. What's going to happen if I go out?
Yeah.
Okay. If I don't wear a mask, I'm anxious. So it's those anxieties. I'm anxious to be in crowds. It's a phobia. Okay.
It's the phobia.
It's a phobia coming back. So
but I mean, if I have a phobia of a spider, because now if you bring a spider, so is it that same feeling when I see a spider?
Absolutely.
I get that feeling. Is that anxious?
That's an anxious feeling.
Or
smokes. And that makes me anxious because what is that spider going to do to me? You know, what is that snake going to do to me? You know, if I'm in that crowd, how am I going to react? And then Mac came back. You know, it gives you a poor self-esteem.
Sure.
Yeah.
So therefore, you don't want to be in crowds because am I going to say the wrong thing?
Yeah.
And that's when we doubt ourselves. So if I'm anxious about being here today and I'm finishing the session and I'll go back and I'll start doubting myself. Did I say the right thing?
Yes.
Couldn't I have said it that way?
Yeah.
That makes me anxious. You see, and that's when we also have a poor self-esteem about ourselves. And that comes about with rejection as well. You know, rejection and abandonment plays a major role in anxiety. Now, another thing, Newton, before you ask me the next question, I actually have I've had 2 people recently because we have a questionnaire and they say, I'm feeling anxious. So I then probe to find out why you're feeling anxious. And they don't know why.
Sure.
They can't identify what they're anxious about.
I've had that though. I feel that feeling of like, you know, when I look at a spider and I'm like, I speak to Caitlin, my wife, and I'm like, I just don't know what I'm feeling anxious about. I'm feeling anxious about something, but because she'll ask me the same question, and I'll say, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
You see, because we can't. Sorry, man.
Sorry, I was about to say, do you think that feeling of anxious of not knowing what it is it unique to older people or younger people? Because I can definitely tell you that being in the education field, if you ask a lot of the kids, they will tell you, so I can use the word nervous. Maybe they won't use the word anxious because they're not nervous. They can't relate the two, so they always use the word nervous about this, about it. But when you ask them why, they don't know.
But Mac, they can't. When you say nervous, you are anxious, like going into a test.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so you can become anxious.
You do.
Yes.
It's a normal feeling. But it can also be hereditary.
Okay.
Through your genes.
Sure.
As well.
Okay. And so you say, so we come back to stress now. So you get anxious, and then anxiety actually leads to stress.
Absolutely.
And then from stress, you start to, when you're stressed out and you don't handle it, what does it lead to, Pastor Clive?
It leads to physical illness, you know, irritable bowel syndrome, affects your stomach, headaches, fatigue. Big problem.
Could stomach ulcers be one of those?
Very definitely.
Because I suffer a lot from those. So I need to stop stressing.
Not only stress, anxiety can cause stomach ulcers if you don't deal with it.
Yeah, something you inherit. Because I know my dad's had ulcers problems, stomach ulcers, and that's something I've suffered from a long time. But even when I was a child, so now I'm trying to figure is it possible that it's not just stress with the stomach ulcer I'm talking? It's true that you can inherit from family line.
Well, through your anxiousness.
Yes.
Through that family line of being anxious.
Yes.
Okay. You get that, and the cause
would be stress.
Is.
So, Pastor Clive, I think a big question, and that is, you know, some people thrive on that anxious feeling.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've heard people thriving on it. That's what they live on. But how do we know what the tipping point is for people who are stressed and have anxiety? What is the tipping point to say, hang on, I need to sort this out. I need to either get some advice, because I think that's something that in my life when I feel anxious, okay, Newton, just breathe and take some time. And I usually get better, but is it wrong to do that? Or when do you say, Newton, you need to start seeing someone to get help and start letting go of your pride and see and talk about it, because you're getting into dangerous territory? I want to know, what's the tipping point of stress and anxiety?
Okay, before I answer that question, let me go back to the first statement you made, where you said that anxiety can push people to achieve.
Yeah.
Stress does that, not anxiety.
Stress.
So I think people
so when
can.
People are stressed out,
I think people.
feel like
remember I said there was a good stress.
Yeah.
Remember I said there was a good stress and bad stress.
Okay, cool.
So I think
So
people
is there a
at
good
times.
stress?
Yes. Now I think sometimes people mix the two up, and they say, "I'm anxious, but I use anxiety to achieve."
Okay. So in other words, they're actually stressing.
They're actually stressing.
Okay.
And they're using that stress.
Yeah.
to say, right, I am going to work through the stress to achieve my goal.
This is very useful. I love this.
So,
because,
okay, but that's good.
Yeah.
But
So
what
how
is
do we
the-
overcome it?
yeah.
No. What is
Okay.
the tipping point?
What's the tipping?
Because
Okay,
I
right.
could be,
So,
or is there a tipping point?
Yeah, very
Because
definitely.
Say you get somebody who says, "Hey, I thrive on stress.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like it all the time, but I thrive on it. It gets me to do things.
Okay.
I mean, I'm like that.
Yeah.
If
So-
I'm in a stressful situation, I'm using that to get through. But when is it that you can do it all the time, or is there a tipping point?
no, there is a tipping point.
Yeah.
Because remember, stress can lead to depression.
Okay.
And depression is if you really don't feel like doing anything, you're crying for the least little thing. Again, I can use a personal experience.
Yeah.
We had a situation which occurred in our family, and a few months after that, my wife got to a point where she had a photograph in her door of a cupboard, which she'd blown up into A4. And she couldn't handle the stress. And one morning as she got out the shower, because she gets there before I do, so I was lying in bed, and she just went ballistic. She started screaming, crying. She ripped this photograph off, started tearing it up. I had to jump out of bed.
Would that be now depression
And
or
that
anger?
was depression.
Okay.
She got into the stress.
Okay.
She was angry,
Yeah.
but that led her to a state of
state.
depression because she didn't deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to go and get meds, which I don't prescribe to if we can deal through it.
Yes.
Instead of taking medication. That's what happens. The other thing as well, anxiety and stress, is people that have on heavy drugs,
Okay.
prescribed medication,
Coffee.
coffee, absolutely, caffeine, a big thing,
Really?
and our eating habits
Wow.
can cause you to stress.
So, Pastor Clive, I know you've got a really personal testimony and personal experience that you've had,
Yes.
and that's led to maybe what you've studied on stress and anger and what's got you here today.
Sure.
But before, when we talk about stress, there's different types of stress in terms of people are stressed at home with their wives, their family situation. They're stressed at work. The corporate world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Demanding.
lot of stress on you, and so those types, different types of stress, and what I want to know is it how does it affect the people around you that is stressed? So I might be stressed, and what type of effect does it have on the things around you?
Newton, financial stress, stress at work affects the family. So, as an example, I could have a financial stress, but I'm too proud to share that with my wife. So, I'm stressing about that, coming home, she might need something, and I then get angry with her, and I take it out on her.
Yeah.
So, the whole family is affected. Relationship stress, relationship causes stress within the family. If parents are continue bickering at each other, it causes kids to stress. Now, again, let me just stress this again. Excuse the pun. Stress is no respecter of age. You have kids of 6 years old and people of 100 years old.
Have they actually
the
done
same
a
amount of
study on
stress.
that? So like
Yes,
even like
absolutely.
my little boy Nathan, who's only 16 months, does he sense like some sort of stress? Or
Okay, let's.
are you saying like so he could be in
They-
a stressful situation, maybe not
and they
knowing
can-
where his parents
yeah,
are?
but they can have an anxiety.
Okay.
For example, you taking him to the preschool.
Yeah.
So you're leaving him and you're leaving. So he has this anxiety of separation from his parents.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is why kids, when you take them, or especially Mac being an educator, and in the primary school,
Yeah.
the first day of school,
Yes. That's always
some
crazy.
kids are anxious and they want you to go to the classroom because they're excited.
Yeah.
Some kids are anxious because now they're going to be separated from their parents, and that causes anxiety.
So that's
And that anxiety then causes them to stress And, various things
That's
happen
something
during
that
the
I've
day.
seen from time to time. For example, when some parents that, let's say for the first week or so, they maybe walk their kids to the school or inside, and then after a week or so, then they just stay by the car. But now this one time it happens where this mom is walking the child, but usually the mother would get scanned and take the temperature, walk straight to the class. But this time the mother made a U-turn here. And the kid got the temperature scanned and ran right back to the mother. And I thought, what's going on? So the mother walks her back. But now in my mind, I'm thinking, what is that kid expressing right now? Because number one, the kid is crying and almost wants to throw a temper tantrum, almost as if the kid is afraid to go there without the mom ever taking her there. So I thought, what would you call that in a kid and I think it's a grade 1 learner.
Anxiety of separation.
Yeah.
Anxiety of separation.
So that definitely affects the children. Yeah.
And that happens to us as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Pastor Clive, I know you're going to bring some. I'm looking forward to listening to some of your tips of overcoming some stress and anxiety. And but what I want to know, I mean, you were touching on depression.
Yeah.
How stress leads to depression, and as we know, depression leads to a lot of other things. And one of the things, I mean, you've now had a personal experience in your life.
Yes.
You're talking about your wife, Jean, who had this experience now with depression. But as far as I know, this experience you've had was caused by that.
Correct.
So, Pastor Clive, I want to know your personal experience with a suicide where you, we say depression leads to certain few things, but one of them is suicide.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to know your personal experience with suicide and how you overcame it. I know your daughter committed suicide.
Yes.
How old was she? And
She was 37.
37.
Yeah.
And how did you deal with that, Pastor Clive? How did you deal with your daughter committing suicide, and how did you overcome it?
Okay. Can I go ahead? First of all, obviously I sensed there was something wrong. And 9 days before she committed suicide, it was a Friday morning, I won't forget. I phoned her earlier and I said, look, I want to take you to breakfast. And because I wanted to find out what was going on. And because there were certain signs that I picked up that something wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
And she assured me.
Was that 9 days before?
Yeah. It was the Friday, and the following Sunday she committed suicide. 1st of November 2009. And what transpired was she assured me nothing was wrong. I had an inclination that she had lost a job, and then she assured me, no, she's found another job. But I don't think she had. But she didn't leave us any information why she did it.
I think that's the scary part, Pastor Clive.
Yes.
And it's, when your child, I'm just going to go off track a bit, when your child, and especially Nathan, he can't talk, but when he's frustrated, he will pick up something and he will throw it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's his way of showing he's either stressed or not happy.
Correct.
But what's scary is that you don't know. I mean, you met with your daughter now 9 days before, and you had no clue that she would eventually do that.
Correct.
So now, sorry, we're with that. Okay, because you used to see with Nathan, you said he can't talk, but now I have a daughter who's turning 14. And a lot of the times when you can see that she's stressed. Now, my wife doesn't handle that very well.
Yes.
If she sees that my daughter's stressed, she kind of goes into a bit of a panic mode and then maybe wants to see what she can change or starts blaming herself. But then I try to play the neutral part where I want to find out, okay, what is wrong? But more often than not, she doesn't want to talk about it. So now I'm asking myself, could we be the reason why she does it? Is there a particular reason why kids don't want to tell their parents what could be stressing them? Because I'm surely those are the people that would want to help first. But I find that sometimes it's a lot easier for them to tell people outside.
Yeah,
but
I think
why is it that they don't want to tell their parents?
I think it's not when they stress. It's more when they start getting the behavioral of stress. So one of the things of stress, when you get too stressed, is you start getting depressed.
And Newton, I'm going to answer your two questions, but let me answer Mac's question first.
Yeah.
Mac, again, I like to use personal examples because it's close. Now, my wife and my daughter who committed suicide are very much the same. They internalize things.
Yeah.
Okay. They find it very difficult to share things. Now, in my wife's case, she was very open and she said some shit in a younger age, and it was somebody in the church.
Yeah.
She shared with, and she felt that person would be confidential, but that person blurted it out. So she doesn't trust people. So she finds it very difficult to open up. Okay. Now, my eldest daughter committed suicide. It was exactly like her mom. Now, Tanya's 2 kids, Andre and Caitlin, are exactly the same. They internalize things. They find it very difficult to share. So it's a trait that comes through the family. Where my youngest daughter, Bronwyn, very much like me, we will open up and I don't mind sharing, but I would share with certain people that I can trust, that I know have got my back. Okay. So your daughter may want to internalize things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you or patients have done something wrong.
Okay.
But she might just find it difficult to share it with you.
Because we always default to that feeling, but is it us who's not opening the channel for her to speak? So it could be like a personality trait. Hey.
Yes, very definitely. But again, it's how we ask the questions.
Yes.
Okay. We can, when we ask questions, we can ask accusing questions.
Okay.
Instead of asking open-ended questions.
Okay.
And questions that will open up. Okay, coming back to Newton. Okay, how did I handle it?
Yes, I mean, it was a very stressful thing.
Very much so.
I think, I mean, you could have taken it one way or the other way.
Sure.
And I want to know, from your side, how you overcame that.
Okay, let me tell you.
Story.
You know what happened was, it was a Sunday, and she stayed in Four Ways. And we got this call. And fortunately, both her kids were with us for the weekend. And we were actually on our way to take them home. And we left them at home. I left them at home. And I rushed through. And when I got there, my ex-business partner was there. And he had about 5, literally, without exaggeration, 5 paramedics there. And I got there at 5, and at 6 they came to me and they told me, sorry, there's nothing more they can do. But now my wife and my youngest daughter and the other 2 kids are at home. But going there, I phoned my senior pastor, and he got the other pastor and their wives and 2 other people. They went to my house.
Yeah.
And the next thing, I must have made a few phone calls. And one of my best friends, who I've known for since 1989, the next thing, I know he rocks up there. And then one of our elders and his wife arrives. And another one of my friends arrive. And that was the port I had right from that very evening.
Sure.
And Newton, it took them from 6 o'clock to 12:15 the next morning before they came to fetch the body. But that support base that I had was there with me. And of course, my wife kept phoning and saying, what's happening, what's happening? And I felt that I couldn't tell them over the phone that our daughter had passed away, you know? I eventually phoned my senior pastor who was at her house, and I said, Pastor Jack, you're going to have to tell them.
Sure.
And I believe that the other pastor, my colleague, Pastor Wayne, he took my grandson out onto the patio, and Pastor Jack and his wife and the other ladies were there, spoke to my wife and Caitlin, and they told him. But when I got home, this other elder friend of mine, Orlando, and his wife, and Herman de Beer, they actually went home with me. And when I got home, Pastor Jack and Pastor Wayne were still at our house. And they sat with me till about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And then when Pastor Jack left, he said to me, I want to see you tomorrow morning. And we went for coffee.
Sure.
And what he said to me, he said, because, you know, I met Pastor Jack in 1988. So he saw my kids, my daughters were teenagers then. And he said to me, Clive, there's one thing you must know. I don't want you to feel guilty, because I know how you reared your kids. And that was the support base. And Newton, that is the big thing, is we need a support base. But we also need people who are not going to tickle our ears.
Yeah.
They need to tell us the truth about ourselves.
So
Mac, you want to say something?
Yeah, while you are on that, so I'm listening to the way you describe the whole situation, and obviously because you had a support structure. But on a more personal level, Did you at one point, looking at what has happened, ever blamed God?
Never. I blame myself,
You blamed yourself,
but never God. No.
Because I know for some people it must be difficult. Going through that, you go, but God, why would you let this happen? So, it's nice that you didn't blame God, because I know a lot of people might be the shift always goes to God to say, but God, this person could have had more time on earth with us, and then you just snatched them away. And coming from a pastor, it's nice to know that God is not to blame, because obviously you would understand that when it's his time, it's his time. But for somebody who doesn't understand that, the blame always goes, but God, you could have stopped it. So,
You see, Mac, the difference is that if you have a relationship with God, that's the big difference. If you don't have a relationship with God, it's easy to blame God. So, but we've got to look at the 5 areas of grieving. You know, it's when you grieve, it's denial, acceptance, anger. And I tell people when they come and they see me, and some people come and they blame God, and I'm angry with God. I say, that's fine. God doesn't have a problem if you're angry with him, okay? Because he understands where you're at. As an example, I'm dealing with a 16-year-old young girl now, and her sister's 30. Now, their mom passed away from COVID 4 weeks ago. And the 16-year-old girl, she's angry with the mom and angry with God. And when I asked her, why are you angry with your mom? She said, because I've sent my mom WhatsApp messages and she never replied to me, and then she passed away, and why did God allow that to happen? But you see, because of my experience with my friend Orlando that was in hospital and was had a not isolated but not incubated, that's for babies.
Intubated. Intubated.
The pipe, Okay, he was there for 39 days. But he couldn't respond because I knew they'd taken his phone away. So I could share with this young girl. I said, but you know, this is what happened to my friend, and that's why your mom couldn't respond to you, because they'd taken her phone away. You know, and the situation was in. So but people don't understand it, and that's why they get angry with God.
I want to know, so suicide in South Africa, we know is I think worldwide is quite high. And I think especially now with coronavirus, I'm sure the stats have gone up. And I read that, you know, the age of most suicides in South Africa, talking now, is 15 years old to 35 years old. And I want to know why is it that age are committing suicide so much more than maybe like your 50-year-old or
Newton, you know, I checked it as well through the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, and they say that as from January 2020, they're averaging 30 suicides per day. And of those suicides per day, a third on the age group 14 to 19. And they're getting, and they've always also recorded of the 20 are attempted suicide. So you've got 43 people a day on average that are committing suicide or trying to commit suicide. Now, why are that age group? You know, social media.
Has the stats gone up? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it has gone up. I can't tell you for sure, but obviously that's very high.
I'm more shocked with the 15 to 19 in South Africa. That's like your youth, basically.
Mac, let me give you an example. 5 years ago, I had a woman come and see me, and she was angry, and her and her husband were being separated, and the magistrate said, you need to go to anger management. And she showed me a social media communication with the daughter. And the daughter was attempted to commit suicide, 14-year-old girl. But she wasn't accepted. She was being bullied at school. But not physically. She was cyberbullying. And she actually showed me this message. And one of the messages, a 14-year-old sent to another 14-year-old, said, you know, you should never have been born in this world. This world would be a better place without you. Why don't you die? Now, bullying, Newton, plays a major role in that age group when, and that's why they commit suicide. The other thing as well is not being able to meet the goals that their parents set for them academically. You find a lot of matrics during matric, the stress that they're going through with their studies, by them not being able to achieve or meet the expectation that their parents put on them.
Yes.
And they say, well, what's use?
How do you
I might as well take
protect
it.
your children, especially now with the young one, like you mentioned, the 14-year-old girl, like cyberbullying, for example? I mean, as a parent, you can't really, you don't have control of most of the things that come onto the children's phones, because obviously the primary cyberbullying is happening on their cell phone.
Correct.
How do you protect your children from such things?
Again, Max, if you have a good relationship with your child,
Yeah.
which is very important, but we can say what we like,
Yeah.
but you need two parents
Yeah.
to manage your household.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a father in the house,
Yeah.
but it can still be an absent father.
True.
But how many households are one-parent households? I mean,
Especially
you
South
know, in the
Africa,
school,
quite a
in South
lot.
Africa.
Yes.
But not only South Africa, I think worldwide,
Yes.
and obviously media and television. I mean, you look at some television programs that promote
The
single parent.
the idea of single
homes.
parenthood, yes. So yeah, I can definitely confirm that, because being in education, a lot of the kids I know are raised by single parent.
Absolutely.
I mean, the majority of them is moms, but a lot of
Yeah.
them it's just single parents.
Yeah, very definitely.
Yeah.
Coming back to the anger and
Yeah.
the stress and the anxiety and also the depression. Now we're talking about suicide, Pastor Clive. What sort of tips could you give us, and maybe any scriptures that you sit back and say, or you can give, that will encourage us, that or anyone listening that may be feeling stressed or maybe dealing with anxiety, how do they handle it, and what sort of encouragement can you give them?
Earlier on, we spoke about the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the Bible has lots of quotes in the Word about the mind. But we talk about a TEB model. Now, the TEB model is, the T is for a thought, the E is for emotion, and the B is for behavior. Now, Dr. Caroline Leaf also says research has shown that the average person, which I'd like to think we're above average, and our viewers that are watching us are above average about plus minus 30,000 thoughts a day.
Sure.
And every one of our five senses can generate a thought.
Yes.
Even our smell sense.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she says that probably an average of 80% of our thoughts are negative.
Sure.
Out of the 30,000.
Yeah.
So 80 of that is negative.
Negative. Okay. Now,
Oh,
how do you
word.
pick it up?
Yeah.
Watching the news, listening to the news, because, bad news sells. So we listen to it. Right now we're talking about, it's a third wave of COVID coming, and what happens? Makes people anxious.
Yes.
Okay. Gives you a negative. So a negative thought becomes a toxic emotion.
Okay.
A toxic emotion becomes an abusive behavior. So how do we behave abusively? Verbally,
Yeah.
emotionally, and physically.
Sure.
So it all starts with a thought. So where does this thought generate? A thought is generated in our mind.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why we say our mind is the most powerful, not our brain. Because what happens is that thought then sends an impulse message to the brain of what hormones to send out. So if I'm angry or if I'm depressed or anxious,
Yeah.
the brain says, okay, to compensate that, I need to send out more adrenaline, more cortisol into the bloodstream for you to cope, which
Yeah.
isn't good. Now, we need to get more endorphins in, because an endorphin hormone calms us down.
Sure.
So it starts with our thinking. Okay. Now, the Bible tells us in Romans 12 verse 2,
Yeah.
do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So how do we do that? It's through the Word. If we read the Word. Okay.
Amen.
Again, in Philippians 4, verse 2, it says, do not be anxious. Again, you see, the Bible talks about anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not be anxious about anything,
Yeah.
but with prayer and thanksgiving,
Yeah.
make your thoughts known to God.
Sure.
So, Pastor Clive, if you were counseling somebody who's not a Christian, how would you give them that same encouragement without using the Bible? Because let's say I'm not a Christian, and that scripture you read in Romans, I have I wouldn't understand it. How
Mac,
would you
Mac, on
help that person?
my business card, I
Yeah.
have a scripture there, but I haven't put the scripture word there.
So
I haven't put the verse.
You didn't put which verse it is.
No.
That's very clever. I like that.
When I do training, I'm
Yeah.
busy doing training for a company in Rudaport.
Yeah.
I use Proverbs. Proverbs 23:7.
Yeah.
As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So I can put a proverb. They don't know
Where-
what proverb it is. It could be a Chinese proverb. It could be whatever proverb. But I still put the word in there because God will honor that.
Yeah.
Amen.
You see, again, 2 Timothy 1:7. God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity,
Yeah.
but of love and of a sound
So
mind.
God's words relates to you, whether you're a Christian or not. It's a powerful tool.
Absolutely.
Amen.
And that's what we've got to do. You see, the other tools, Newton, that obviously our thinking is
Yeah.
very important. So
Yeah.
what I share as well, I say, you've got to do some self-talk, but positive self-talk. Okay. I'm going out. I don't need to be anxious about the third COVID wave. Okay. I can protect
How
myself.
do you do that, Pascal?
Yeah.
Because when you're in that moment, you kind of, it's the last thing I want to do is
Yeah.
say something
Okay.
positive.
Because
You see, Caroline Leaf
So
says,
how do you step back?
okay, Caroline Leaf says that if you do the same thing consecutively for 21 days, it becomes a habit.
Okay.
So
So you have to practice it.
absolutely. So
Okay.
what I share with my clients, I say, right, you don't wait till you become anxious.
Yes.
Okay. You don't wait. So you go into the bathroom in the morning and say, Clive, today's going to be a great day. Okay. Today, I'm not going to allow any negative thoughts to capture my mind. I am free.
Yeah.
I can do all things. Okay.
Sorry, while you
But I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me.
Yeah.
But as a Christian, we can say that.
Yeah.
But if we continuously say it for
Start
consecutive for
training your
21,
mind.
start
It's
training
the
your
most
mind.
powerful tool.
Absolutely.
I
Your
must
mind
tell
is
you.
the most
So you
powerful
train your
thing.
mind and you say, right, I want to get angry because Newton has triggered me because
Yeah.
remember, anger is an emotion.
Yeah.
So Newton can't make me angry.
So, Pastor
I'll make
Clive,
myself angry.
When I was young, because the whole topic brings something funny. When I was still at school, my teacher used to tell me, do you know what's the first sign of madness, Mac? I'm like, why? He said, talking to yourself. So now that you say sometimes positive talk is good, and I used to do that, but I got into the habit of thinking maybe I was crazy. So now that you just said that, it's like, I wasn't crazy. I was just encouraging
No, you
myself.
went crazy.
Absolutely.
Using it.
Absolutely. The other thing Newton spoke about earlier was breathing. Now, breathing is important, but not shallow breathing with our lungs.
Okay.
We've got to do breathing from the core. Okay. So when we breathe, we get to breathe in through our nose to a count of 5.
Okay.
And then breathe out through your mouth to a count of 8. Because that just calms you down. But you can't do it once. You must say, right, I'm going to do a set of 3 or 5. So you do a set of 5, and you wait, and you do another set of 5. Just like exercise, another set of 5.
Yeah.
And then, of course, physical exercise. Very important.
Okay.
Walking, doing something. Try and do at least 15 to 20 minutes of exercise. Get an exercise bike or go for a walk around the block for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And those are things.
Definitely helps,
But
yeah.
it helps, And of course, the other thing is coffee,
We must cut down on the
caffeine. Those who drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's a
those
big
are
one,
those are the other things that we need to cut down on.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is
Diet.
sleep.
Yeah.
8 hours sleep is very important.
Yeah, but how do you do that?
Yes.
If
How do
you're
you do
in the
that?
corporate, Pastor Clive, and you've got like maybe let's say 4 hours of sleep because you're working. You've got. How do you
Manage that.
manage that?
See, again,
is it something? Is it lifestyle?
it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle you've got to have.
Okay.
And again, you need balance in your life.
Okay.
Okay. I watched a program last night. It's called Famous Hotels or something.
Yeah.
And this hotel in Switzerland, they've got like a whole hospital there. And so one of the things they did with this guy is they said they were going to test his sleep. He woke up 17 times in one night. And he says, I can't believe I woke up 17 times.
But-
So my wife said to me, do you think we do that as well? We probably do.
Yeah.
I
So we're not
definitely
having a
argue,
proper
yes.
we're not having a proper 8 hours sleep a night.
I definitely do having a baby. Yes.
Correct. So but again, we can compensate with other things.
Okay.
And again, a proper diet.
Okay.
You know, junk food we all enjoy, but again in balance.
Okay.
Because junk food can. Sugar, big problem.
Does
Big problem in
taking
our
a
life.
nap also help relieve stress?
It does, absolutely.
'Cause
Absolutely.
I definitely do the like. Sometimes my body does that involuntarily. Like as soon as I get home and I sit on my couch, my wife knows. Count to 5 minutes, Max gone.
Yes. but that's good. It's a power nap.
Yeah,
You know,
it's just- it just happens now,
and you
yeah.
just restore your energy again.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and obviously vitamins.
Yes.
You know, you need supplements just to help you, especially in this fast world that we're living in.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's awesome. No,
love
it's been
it.
such a privilege to have you, Pastor
Thank
Clive,
you.
and I think
learned
you've
a lot.
I've
Especially
learned
I'm
a
not
lot.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not crazy, Mac.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone watching at home have learned something.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing your personal testimony
Yes.
and your
Appreciate it.
being vulnerable. You know,
Yeah.
appreciate that, and it's been a great chat, and it's been awesome to have you with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mac,
Welcome.
Newton Mac, I really appreciate and thank you so much
Yes.
for making me just feel at home.
Yes.
And I was chilled and thank
Please
you
come
very
back
much.
again, Pastor Clive.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. Great.
I'm sure after
Awesome.
this episode, you'll get lots of questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we might have
So
to
we'll
do
bring you
another
for
one.
for 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, we're available. You know, one of the visions of living with church
Yeah.
is we want to the word I'm lost for words here. Impact our community.
Yeah.
You know, and we're doing that because you know, with the John Maxwell program, I'll be able to go into to the government schools because the Southern Ekurhuleni district has given me opportunity to go into the government schools to promote and to motivate the grade 12s. You know, so from a church perspective, we are getting into the community and sharing this type of thing with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to, if people want to look for, I mean, you have an anger and stress center. Where can they find you, Pastor Clive, or how can they find out a little bit more? If that maybe people who are watching, they're saying, listen, I would like to get some help. They're feeling stressed or got some anxiety problems. Where can they find you? How can they get hold of you?
On the
Should I
website,
maybe we can leave your details.
We
on
can leave the
bottom of
details,
the
yeah.
description.
Link
But
below, yeah.
have you got a website?
we've got a website. Our website is www.angerstress.com.
Yes.
You can go to that website and they'll find everything about us and
Okay.
where our centre is situated.
You
and what we
specifically
do.
are in Alberton. So if you're
But-
looking
yeah.
for Pastor Clive,
Right.
he's in Alberton.
Correct.
And I know you also do John Maxwell leadership training and life coaching.
Correct.
And so I'm sure we'll leave your details
Yes,
in the bottom
super.
of the description.
Thank you.
So if you want to get hold of him. Awesome,
Yes.
Mac.
Yeah.
Good to have you. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again. And thanks to Lebo behind the camera.
Yes.
Thanks for your help.
The unsung hero who you never see.
And we'll catch you next week. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Smash it.
And
Yeah.
Mac, did you know that in 2020,
Yeah.
the most, and now we're talking brands that
Yeah.
were searched in 2021 this year, so
Yeah.
up till now, YouTube has been the number one branded company that's been searched on
Wow,
Google.
eh?
Yeah.
Yes, it's YouTube,
And we are on
WhatsApp
YouTube,
Web,
yes.
and Facebook. So we're on the right platform, Mac, and there
yeah.
must be a reason because LWC Radio is the
only
number
one of its
one
kind.
radio
Yes.
in South Africa.
Hey, amen. I agree.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
Be
Thanks to
blessed.
all the viewers.
See you guys. We'll see you next week. Cheers.